I used to believe hard work could fix everything, that if I gave my best, life would reward me back. But that was before I met her. My name is Ethan. I was 32 when this story began. I ran a small family business, a repair shop my father had built from scratch. It wasn't much, but it was honest work. I spent my days covered in grease, tired but proud, knowing every paycheck came from my own hands. Then one afternoon, she walked in. Leela. She said her car had broken down nearby. She smiled when I offered her coffee while we waited for the tow truck. I remember thinking her eyes looked like they carried both warmth and mystery, the kind of eyes you could fall into without realizing how deep they went. From that day, she started showing up more often. She'd bring lunch, sometimes just sit in the office reading while I worked. We talked about everything, life, dreams, the kind of future we both wanted. I'd never met anyone who listened the way she did. She made me feel seen, understood, important. Months passed, and our friendship turned into something more. She moved into my apartment. We started planning for the future together. For the first time, I let someone share my life completely. She noticed how disorganized my finances were and offered to help. She was smart, calm, and patient with numbers, something I never had the time for. I trusted her easily. We opened a joint account, saved together, talked about buying a small house near the coast someday. Everything felt right. Too right, maybe. I remember one evening we sat watching the sunset from our balcony. She leaned on my shoulder and said, "You've got such a good heart, Ethan. One day it'll make you rich." I laughed. I didn't know she meant rich for her, not for us. The next morning started like any other. Coffee, the same routine. I kissed her goodbye before heading to the shop. She smiled and said she'd meet me later for dinner. That smile, it haunts me still. By afternoon, she was gone. Her phone was off, her things gone, every cent in our account emptied. I stood in our apartment staring at the half-empty closet, trying to convince myself there was a reason, maybe an emergency, maybe a mistake, but deep down I knew. She had vanished, along with everything I had worked for. I called the bank, but the transfer was clean, legal, every document had my signature. She had planned it perfectly, and I'd helped her do it. Days turned into weeks. Friends pitied me. Some laughed behind my back. I lost clients, confidence, everything. It wasn't just the money she stole. It was my trust, my pride, the belief that good people stayed good. And when I finally stopped searching for her, when I finally accepted she wasn't coming back, I said the words that would define the next 7 years of my life. She didn't just take my money. She took the part of me that believed in people. I thought that was the end of my story, but 7 years later, there was a knock on my door. I always thought losing money would be the worst thing that could happen to a man. I was wrong. What really destroys you is losing trust in others and in yourself. After Leela disappeared, my whole life started to fall apart piece by piece. The business that once kept me grounded slowly crumbled. I couldn't focus. Bills piled up, clients stopped coming, and the few who did, they looked at me differently now, like I was a fool. Word spread fast in small towns. People whispered things they thought I couldn't hear. He got played. She cleaned him out. Poor guy never saw it coming. Each word felt like a nail being hammered into what little pride I had left. I tried to act like I didn't care, but inside, I was falling apart. I spent months searching for her. I called every number I could find, checked every social media account, hired people to track her down. Nothing. It was like she had been erased from the world. Her phone was disconnected, her accounts deleted, even the photos we had together, gone, like she never existed at all. Every night I sat alone in that empty apartment, staring at the space where her things used to be. I replayed every moment in my head, asking myself the same question over and over. How could I have been so blind? At first, the anger kept me alive. I told myself I'd find her one day, make her face what she'd done. But as time passed, that anger started to fade, replaced with something worse: regret. I started blaming myself. Maybe I was too trusting. Maybe I'd been so desperate to believe in love that I ignored the warning signs.
There was so many of them. The late-night phone calls she'd step outside to take, the way she'd ask about the business account, about how much was in savings. The day she convinced me to sign the joint papers, telling me it would make us official. I saw all of it now, the pattern, the setup. But back then, I only saw the woman I loved. Months turned into a year, then another. My shop closed. My friends stopped calling. Life became smaller, quieter, emptier. I took whatever jobs I could find, deliveries, repairs, anything to stay afloat. I didn't smile much, didn't trust anyone. Every time someone tried to get close, I'd pull away. It's strange, you know? The world keeps moving, even when yours has stopped. 7 years. That's how long it took for the pain to finally dull, not disappear, but fade into something bearable. I thought I had buried that chapter of my life. I thought I'd finally learned to live without the past haunting me. But then one night, as rain poured outside and thunder rolled across the sky, I heard it. A knock at my door. Slow. Hesitant. Familiar. I froze. Something about that sound felt different. And when I opened the door, I had no idea that the past I thought was buried was standing right there, waiting for me. 7 years later, I thought I had buried that part of my life, until the knock on my door. They say the past always finds a way back to you. I never believed that, until the night I opened my door and saw her standing there. It was late, the kind of quiet where even the rain outside sounded heavy. I was half asleep, wrapped in the dull routine I'd built to forget everything. Then came the knock. Slow. Hesitant. Like the person on the other side wasn't sure they wanted to be there. When I opened the door, I saw a girl, maybe 16. Her clothes were damp, her hands trembling as she clutched something close to her chest. "Are you Ethan Carter?" she asked softly. "Yes," I said, my voice cautious. "Who's asking?" She hesitated before holding out a worn photograph. "My mom said you could help me?" I took the photo from her hand, and the moment I saw it, my heart stopped. It was a picture of me and Lila, years younger, smiling like the world hadn't turned cruel yet. Her arm was around me, my arm around her. We looked happy, innocent. I stared at that photo for what felt like forever, my hands shaking. Then I looked back at the girl. She had Lila's eyes, the same soft brown that could make you trust her without a word. "What did you say your name was?" I asked quietly. "Maya. I'm her daughter." The words hit me like a wave I wasn't ready for. I could barely breathe. Lila's daughter. 1,000 thoughts collided in my head at once. Anger, guilt, confusion, pain. How dare she send this girl to me after everything she'd done? And why now, after all these years? But when I looked at Maya again, all I saw was fear. She looked exhausted, soaked from the rain, her face pale and anxious. "Come inside," I said, stepping aside. She hesitated, then walked in slowly, glancing around like she'd stepped into a stranger's world, which,
In a way, she had. I poured her some tea, my hand still shaking slightly. She sat at the edge of the couch, clutching that photo. Her voice cracked when she spoke. My mom, she's gone. I don't know where. She said if anything ever happened to her, I should come find you. I froze. What do you mean, gone? She mean missing, she whispered. She left a note 2 weeks ago. Just said she had to fix something from the past. And then nothing. For a long moment, the only sound in the room was the rain tapping against the window. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even know how to feel. Part of me wanted to shut the door and walk away, to tell her I wasn't the man her mother thought I was, that she'd taken everything from me and I owed her nothing. But there was something about the way Maya looked at me, a mix of desperation and innocence that stopped me. She didn't know the story. She didn't know the lies, the betrayal, the nights I'd spent trying to forget her mother's name. She was just a kid, scared and alone. I sighed and leaned back. Did she tell you anything else about me? Maya shook her head. Only that you once helped her when no one else would. That stung, because I had. And she'd repaid me by destroying everything I built. I stood and walked to the window, staring into the dark. I could feel the old anger stirring again. But beneath it, something else. Curiosity. A question I couldn't ignore. Why would Lila send her daughter to me? I turned back to Maya. You can stay here for now, I said, quietly, until we figure out what's going on. Her eyes filled with relief, and for the first time I saw a flicker of trust, the same trust I once gave to her mother. As she curled up on the couch, clutching that photo like it was her lifeline, I stood there watching her, torn between memories and questions I didn't want to ask. I whispered to myself, Lila, what did you get yourself into this time? And just like that, the past I thought I'd buried 7 years ago was sitting in my living room. Some doors should stay closed, but when that girl showed up, I couldn't help myself. I had to open the one that nearly destroyed me. The days after Maya arrived felt unreal. Having her in my house was like living with a ghost, a living reminder of the woman who broke me. Every time I looked at her, I saw pieces of Lila. Her eyes, her quiet smile, even the way she tilted her head when she was curious. It tore me apart and comforted me at the same time. She told me stories about her mother, about how they never stayed in one place for long, always moving from city to city, sometimes overnight. Mom said she was looking for peace, Maya said once. But I think she was running from something. That line stuck with me. Running from something. When I asked Maya how she found me, she said it wasn't easy. She'd found a box of letters hidden in an old suitcase, letters that Lila had written to me but never sent. My name, my address, even old photos from the days we were together were inside. Maya said she read every word. That's how she learned who I was. That's how she found her way to my door.
The letters were all dated years ago. The handwriting neat, emotional. Some sounded like confessions, others like apologies. But none of them explained where she was now or why she disappeared again. I told myself I shouldn't get involved, that Lila's problems weren't mine anymore. But the more I looked at Maya, scared, lost, searching for a mother who might be in trouble, the harder it became to stay detached. So I made a decision I never thought I'd make again. We'll find her, I told her. Together. Maya's eyes filled with relief. You mean it? I do, I said, even though every instinct in me screamed not to.
We started small, tracking old phone numbers, addresses from the letters, even calling old acquaintances. Most people had no idea where she'd gone. Some didn't even want to talk about her. A few hung up the second they heard her name. That's when I knew something wasn't right. I used to think Lila was just a skilled manipulator, someone who conned me for money and disappeared, but this felt different. It wasn't just one mistake, it was a pattern. Something much bigger. At one of her old addresses, we met an older woman who remembered her clearly. She looked at me with a mix of pity and warning. "You're not the first person to come looking for her," she said. "What do you mean?" I asked. "She hurt people, son. Not just you. Money, lies. She left a mess behind, wherever she went. There were others before you and after." Her words made my stomach turn. "Did you ever see her again?" I asked. The woman nodded slowly. "A year ago? Maybe. But she wasn't alone. Two men came asking about her a few days later. Serious-looking men. I told them I hadn't seen her since. They didn't look like the kind who ask twice." That night, Maya sat on the couch, quiet, staring at her mother's photograph. "Do you think she's okay?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I didn't know what to say. The truth was starting to form in my mind, and it terrified me. Lila wasn't just running from guilt or heartbreak. She was running from danger, from people she shouldn't have crossed. The deeper I dug, the darker it got. There were records, forged documents, bank accounts under fake names, and financial trails that led to places I didn't want to imagine. At first, I thought I wanted justice for what she'd done to me, but now I just wanted answers. Who was Lila, really? Why did she steal from so many people? And if she was hiding from dangerous people, where was she now? I looked over at Maya, innocent, hopeful, completely unaware of the kind of world her mother might have been tangled in. That night, as rain poured against the windows again, I made myself a promise. "I'll find the truth," I whispered to the empty room. "Even if it's not the truth I want to hear." Because deep down, I had a feeling. Whatever we were about to uncover, it wasn't going to be a happy ending. Some truths don't break you all at once. They unfold slowly, until one day you realize your anger has nowhere left to go. Weeks had passed since Maya and I started searching. Every lead brought more questions, more shadows. I was starting to think we'd never find her. Then one morning, Maya walked into the kitchen holding my old laptop. Her hands were shaking. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I think I found something." On the screen was an old, unsent email, hidden deep inside an old folder I hadn't opened in years. The subject line read, "I owe you the truth." It was from Lila. For a long moment, I just stared at it. My heart was pounding. After everything she'd done, after years of silence, now her voice was right there, waiting for me to hear it again. I clicked. The words appeared slowly, like they'd been waiting all this time for me to finally read them. "Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't send it. I wanted to tell you the truth before disappearing, but I didn't have the courage. You didn't deserve what I did to you. You never did." My chest tightened as I read on. "When I met you, I wasn't looking to trick anyone. You were the first good thing in my life in a long time. But my past caught up with me faster than I expected. I owed people, dangerous people. If I didn't pay them, they would have taken Maya away, or worse. I panicked.
I took your money because I had no other choice." I stopped reading for a moment. My hands trembled. I wanted to be angry. I should have been angry. But all I felt was confusion. She had stolen everything from me. My trust, my future, my peace. But if what she said was true, had she done it to survive? Maya was watching me carefully. "What does it say?" she asked, her voice soft. I hesitated, then turned the screen so she could see. She read in silence, tears forming in her eyes. "She never told me any of this," she whispered. "She said you hated her." I swallowed hard. I thought I did. We sat there quietly, both staring at the words of a woman neither of us fully understood. The rest of the email explained everything. The debts, the threats, the fear that never left her. How she planned to return the money someday, but by then she was in too deep. "You'll never believe this, Ethan, but I did love you. I just didn't know how to be honest with you. Every good thing I touched turned into a mistake, and you were the best thing I ever ruined." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. My mind was spinning. For 7 years, I had built this picture of her as the villain, cold, heartless, calculated. But this letter painted her as something else. Broken, desperate, human. And that made it hurt even more. "I don't know what to think anymore," I said quietly. "She didn't just lie. She made me live a lie." Maya wiped her eyes. "But maybe she did it for me." I looked at her. Really looked at her. This girl, sitting across from me, was the reason for everything. The reason Lila ran. The reason she stole. The reason I was still caught between anger and something I didn't want to name. Forgiveness. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept reading the letter over and over, searching for clues, for closure, for anything that could help us find her. At the very end, there was one line that caught my eye, something I hadn't noticed before. "If anything ever happens to me, look for the place where the ocean meets the cliffs. You'll understand." I stared at those words for a long time. The ocean meets the cliffs. The next morning, I showed it to Maya. Her eyes lit up. "I know that place," she said. "Mom talked about it all the time. It's in Crescent Bay, a small coastal town 2 hours from here." For the first time in years, I felt something new. Not anger, not sadness. Hope. We packed a few things and got into the car. As the road stretched ahead, I couldn't help but think, what if she was still alive? What if the woman who destroyed my life had been living with her own destruction all along? As the road drifted into the setting sun, I whispered to myself, 7 years later, and I'm still chasing the same ghost. But this time, I wasn't chasing revenge. I was chasing the truth. Some meetings heal you. Others remind you of every wound you thought had closed. This one did both. The drive to Crescent Bay was quiet. The ocean stretched endlessly beside us, silver under the fading sky. Maya sat next to me, clutching her mother's old photo. We never spoke much, There was too much to say, and nothing that could make it easier. When we reached the town, it felt frozen in time. Small streets, quiet shops, the sound of waves crashing in the distance. We asked around, showed Lila's picture to anyone who would look. Most shook their heads, but one old fisherman paused, studying the photo. "He goes by another name now," he said slowly. "Lives near the cliffs. Doesn't talk much to anyone." My heart started pounding. After 7 years of searching, 7 years of anger, guilt, and questions, I was finally going to see her again. We found the small cottage near the water, worn down, covered in sea salt and wind. The door was slightly open. I hesitated for a moment, breathing deeply, then stepped inside. She was there, sitting by the window, staring at the sea. Her hair was streaked with gray now, her frame thinner, weaker. But even after all this time, I knew that face.
Lila turned slowly. When her eyes met mine, the color drained from her face. The teacup she held slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. "Ethan," she whispered. I didn't speak. My throat tightened, words caught between anger and disbelief. Maya stood behind me, frozen in the doorway. For a long time, no one said anything. The only sound was the ocean outside. Then Lila stood, trembling. "You shouldn't have come," she said softly. "You're right," I replied, "but your daughter deserved to know the truth." She looked at Maya, tears forming in her eyes. "Maya, you shouldn't be here." "Why?" Maya's voice broke. "Because we might find out who you really are?" She turned away, covering her face. "I never wanted you to see me like this. I wanted to fix everything before you found me." "What fix?" I said sharply. "The lies? The money you stole? Or the way you disappeared like I never existed?" She flinched but didn't argue. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost missed it, she said, "You were the only good thing in my life, Ethan. I ruined that because I didn't know how to live without running. Every time I tried to come back, I froze. I didn't have the courage." Her words hit harder than I expected. For years, I imagined this moment would bring me satisfaction, maybe even justice. But standing there, seeing her so small, so broken, all I felt was tired. She sat back down, shaking. "I tried to make it right. I saved every dollar I could. I was going to send it back to you." I reached into my jacket and pulled out an envelope. Thick, heavy. I placed it on the table in front of her. "You don't have to," I said quietly. "This is what I rebuilt. Every cent you took from me and more. It's yours now." She looked up, confused. "Why would you do that?" "Because you stole my money once," I said, voice steady. "But I won't let you steal my peace again." Her lips trembled. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She tried to speak, but her voice broke before the words could come. I turned to Maya. "Let's go." Maya hesitated, then whispered, "Goodbye, Mom." As we stepped outside, the wind picked up, carrying the scented salt and rain. I didn't look back. Some things don't need closure, just release. We walked toward the car in silence. Behind us, the cottage door creaked in the wind, and the ocean roared like it was swallowing the past. For the first time in years, my chest felt light. The anger, the guilt, the endless questions, they were gone. I had come searching for justice, but I found something else instead. Freedom. They say forgiveness changes you. I never believed that, until I finally tried it. Months passed after that day at the cottage. The anger that used to sit heavy on my chest was gone. What replaced it wasn't joy, not at first, but peace. A kind of quiet I hadn't felt in years. Maya and I started spending more time together, not because we shared the same pain, but because we shared the same healing. She'd visit on weekends, sometimes help out at the small workshop I had rebuilt from nothing. She was bright, curious, full of life, the kind of person her mother used to be before the world broke her. Watching her grow reminded me of something I'd forgotten. Not everything that's lost stays gone. Sometimes it comes back in a new form, gentler, better. We didn't talk much about Lila. Some things didn't need words. But every now and then Maya would glance at the ocean and whisper, "Do you think she's okay?" And I'd tell her the truth. I think she's finally at peace, just like we are. Then one morning, a letter arrived. No return address. Just my name written in familiar handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was the same envelope I'd left on her table months ago. Every cent still inside. There was a single note with it. "Thank you for forgiving me before I deserved it." I didn't cry. I just sat there, holding that letter, feeling the final piece of the past settle quietly in its place. I realized something then. Something I wish I'd known all those years ago.
Forgiveness doesn't erase the past. It releases you from it. Years later, I stood in a crowded auditorium watching Maya walk across a stage in her graduation gown. She caught my eye in the audience and smiled, the same smile that once belonged to her mother, only brighter, purer, untarnished by regret. As applause filled the room, I felt the warmth of something I hadn't known in a long time. Hope. She took everything I had once, I whispered to myself. But in the end, life gave me back something far greater. The camera would fade on that moment, Maya's laughter echoing as she stepped into her future, and me smiling quietly, knowing that some endings don't close a story. They simply begin a better one. And that's when I realized, forgiveness isn't weakness. It's freedom. Lila took everything from me once, but in the end, life gave me something far greater. Peace, purpose, and a second chance. If this story moved you, hit the like button, subscribe, and watch the next story, another powerful journey of betrayal, justice, and redemption. Because every heartbreak hides a lesson, and every ending starts a new beginning.